This Muslim ain't no apologist. So don't seek me for an apology. I'm on the west side of Baltimore, parlaying with apologies. We all writers. With arthritis that offs writers. Leave them stuck and comatose. Their pens ain't coming close to the parchment. My department departs to men. My words made me Midas. The pen might just make me king. Good morning. How you guys doing? Before I start my pieces, I just want to give thanks and praise to Allah. And I want to send a special shout out to my mom for all the sacrifices she's made. That's the only reason I'm able to be here in front of you all today. So I just want to recognize those people. The first piece I'm going to share with you all is a piece titled The Invisible Cage. It was inspired by Che Guevara, who spoke on capitalism and the myth of the self-made man, and how in reality, the majority of people's opportunities have already been predetermined. And so this piece was inspired by that. Listen to my heart go, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap. God made it do that. God made it do that. God made it do that. Do that. Do that, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap. Capitalism wants to put an end to that. That's God in me. Because to them, God is wealth. But God himself ain't never been dollar bill green. I've seen politicians baptized in false dreams. But I've been graced with sight keen enough to see past the facade and recognize God. That's why I'm graced with the spirit of Fidel. Ready to castrate my ghetto with the Castro in my falsetto, waging war against minimum wage, with the rage of Fela Kuti in a kufi, witnessing the bloody aftermath capitalism leaves behind. And when you're left behind, the machine says you're fine. Then it takes your struggle and tries to refine. Like sugar, it's a domino effect. God bless how we resurrect, then take our bones and add to the shrine. How divine death must be. That's what the poor man, who used to be the floor man, before he was a foreman, before blacks were whole man, he knew he was a whole man. He needs somebody to hold man. They held him down at whole man. Square. Cops never cared. So today he gotta hold hands and pray. Like Che Guevara fighting terror. Saddam's mom reading the Quran for me. Some say dying while fighting should be an honor to me. But them people ain't really down for the cause. Because if they could, they put me down for the cause. Just because. Then they'll ask Malcolm, how come? And he'll say with a grin like Martin, Mohamed should have known that the marksmen already marked him. Men who speak against the invisible cage are marked men. The invisible hand left Karl Marx with marks around his neck. Asphyxiated flesh fills cotton fields. I feel filled with cotton. How this white man keep me picking on myself. See, I might have caught 10 if I never caught on to the boast of the Gold Coast. Kwame Nkrumah removing the tumor. Eurocentric temptress attempted to make black men their own prison for profit. Now all our prophets in prison. Mandela's medallion keeps my smile living, even though they tried to annex my chest. So I make sure that I'm always Teflon vested, Cornell West kid, came from the West Side, living in the West End, Mouth Smith and Wesson, gun but the government, tell them that I'm mental, tell them that I'm mental. This poem right here was made to dismantle the invisible cage. Thank you. Like I said, my name is Mohamed. I'm the current Baltimore City Youth Poet Laureate. I'm the first black Muslim immigrant Youth Poet Laureate of Baltimore. And I'm more than proud to represent all of those identities. The second piece I want to do for you all, I'm originally from PG County, Maryland. I see we got some PG folks in here. And while I lived in PG, I also lived in DC for a few years. And as I moved to Baltimore and went back to visit, I noticed that something changed. the people changed. Gentrification became a big problem in Washington, D.C. And it really affected me. I remember I was maybe 16 or 17, and I went down for a weekend, and I came back, and I sat in my room from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. I sat in my room just writing. I didn't know what I was writing about. I didn't know where I was going with it, but I said I have to write something. And at like 5 a.m., right before like Fajr, and Fajr is like the Muslim prayer in the morning, I wrote this line, and I was like, I hate being showered by white tears. And it was like, that's the poem. So like I prayed, came back, and I wrote this piece. It's titled Not So Chocolate City. I hate being showered by white tears. I'm more of a tough man trying to free my people. Sorry, Master P. But tell Lil Romeo, I see DC, and that collage is getting whitewashed. It's starting to look like white marsh. I was on Georgia Avenue watching them whites march. Boy, I tell you, them white smart. They took off their hoods to take our hoods. Ronald Reagan's post-racial America coming from vacation. Damn, Daniel. Back at it again with the gentrification, cultural appropriation, and colonization. But that's how it works, right? They tear apart our social fabric by materializing what we created when we didn't have it. We put salt on food, and white people called it magic. Now they trying to put mumbo sauce on their beef stroganoff. Trying to build froyos in the go-go as the nation's capital makes capital off rebuilding its capital on the backs this country continuously capsizes, where the fitted caps lean sideways and the foam posits bring a new balance. But even C era sees errors in our era. The future of the city ain't cherry blossom pretty. Black culture will be but a distant cousin by the time we wake and the U-Hauls leave and you all leave and the whites move in. The city's starting to look like a Klan rally. No burning crosses, but they're burning bridges, colonizing foreclosures and calling them projects, forcing us to the projects. Don't you get it? Home improvement signifies black exclusion. These gentrifiers are for-profit, anti-black prophets, modern-day crusades that we used to say. Been lying, been plotting. The graph suggests that these white families are ordered pairs, pinpointed to replace our fathers in pinstripes, victims of circumstance, victims of Clinton's hands. Victims of Clinton's hands. Bills built prisons and affected how we live in. Mass incarceration is just another form of black deportation. We are rooted in the hood. They pulling us out. Deforestation. Yet the liberals that move in say they want to liberate us. So we avoid gentrifiers like they handing out flyers, startled at the thought that they still wish to take what little I don't have. What little I don't have is the meaning of his poem. You see, I tried to use metaphors and similes as a means of reversing gentrification while inadvertently gentrifying my own statements. I placed my stanzas in row homes. I colonized my town of thoughts, co-opting my own cooperation. My pen became a big corporation, incorporating these poems in search of payment, rejecting what I know. Now my poems like the Sphinx, aliens did it. My poem turned bigot, trying to take credit for being original, but the poet is a cynic, refurbishing every sentence. Maybe less black and rap, maybe more calm with snaps. Maybe it's Karma Sutra. Looking in the mirror like this karma suits ya. Dressing these words in button poetry is getting played out. Like the black souls that were once by to own. You reap what you sow and you eat what you own. This is the thanks we get for taking America as our own. This is the poem we get for taking America as our home. Thank you. All right, y'all want to hear one more poem? I think I got time for one more. All right, cool. So this last piece I'm going to perform is titled King. It's one of the most creative titles I've ever come up with. It really has to do with this show called Naruto. And in the show, it was something I found so profound. They kept speaking about a king. But in Naruto, they have Hokages. So it was like, who's the king? Who's the king? And they said that the king was he or she that possesses the will of fire. And they said the king were the children, the young people. So in 2015, I did a social justice poetry tour around Baltimore City at the different Enoch Pratt libraries. I was still in high school, and at each stop, they had young people come out and share poems with us before we performed for them. And I was so inspired by them, I went home and I wrote this poem. So when I say king, I'm not talking about a patriarch or a monarch. I'm speaking about he or she that possesses the will of fire, the young people. Don't you know they praying on your downfall, king? Don't you know that Moses is coming for you, king? Don't you know that I've seen magicians turn servants, staffs turn serpents, pharaohs go preserved, and prophets go unheard, king? So tell me, what's the word, king? Because I've seen man take golden calf for God. And I've seen God rain terror on man for forgetting who God is, king? And God is king. I've seen hollow hearts search for peace on empty prayer rugs. So I suggest you, and you go find one. Because soon, everybody will want a piece of you until there ain't no peace in you, and then they end up piecing you. King, look what they did to Martin Luther. King, they will tell you, we love you, then Mandela, your spirit, rip you of your heart, but you have Winnie for backbone. You have Betty for backbone. You have Coretta for backbone, so stand strong, king. Because they will try to apartheid your apostle. Claim you as their equal, yet view you as hostile. They will shoot you on sight. King, any sight, ting of your black frame will be frightening. This is why the caged bird still sings. King, but you ain't caged bird. You more like albatross, king. They keep trying to shoot you down, king. And when they shoot you down, king, they wear you around their necks, king. These mariners ain't got no respect, king. They make crown from thorns and tell you rule your kingdom. Because they think the king's dumb. That's why I teach my sons, get it, king? Because if you don't, they will guillotine your manhood. Separate you from your mans and your hood, but your hood is kingdom come. Tell them people that the king is here, and I plan on raising my seeds, planting ghetto prophets, proposing prophecies, and rewriting policy, teaching future kings to love their struggle. But you oak tree to the rest of these saps. You the leaf, king. I see in your eyes you want to leave, king, but don't forget who you leaving, king. Don't forget the horror. Tell our story like you Stephen, king. Stop letting them appropriate our life here. Stop letting them recreate our nightmares. Somebody tell Iggy the Jigaboo Snow Bunny it ain't funny. Because we got homies on deathbeds on their last leg trying to remember when enough is enough. Now Blondie trying to play tough but ain't utter a word. When Tamir Rice lost his wings in the streets. You see, everybody want to act black until another black body is left laying in the streets. But acting black and being black are two different things, but I see it in your eyes. You just want to be king, and for that, I'll stand beside you. Thank you. Before I step off, I just want to tell you a little story about this kid. About 5 years ago, this kid got kicked out of private school because for basically telling his principal and his administration that they were racist. This kid, they did everything in their power to try to make sure that this kid didn't become something. They used to tell him all the time, you would be nothing. You'll never go anywhere. You'll never make it to college. They told him all of these things. They told him you couldn't do spoken word poetry. And 5 years later, this kid's standing in front of you guys right now doing a TEDx talk. So to all the adults, educators, professionals that are in this room today, I implore you, these young people are our future, and it's your job to set that foundation for them. Please do not take that away from them. Please don't try to take their voice away from them because they need that. We need them more than they need us. So please, Never stop believing in yourselves, and always speak for truth and justice wherever you go in front of anybody. Thank you. Thank you.